Welcome to the Peak Performance Podcast, your guide to optimizing your life one health tip at a time. This podcast is designed to entertain and inform, not to provide medical or health advice. Always consult your doctor when it comes to your personal health or before you make any changes to your diet, exercise, or lifestyle.
Ladies and gentlemen, there's underperformance, there's regular performance, and then there is the Peak Performance Podcast. Fourth wall break. I'm Coach Kyle, and I'm here with Dr. K.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us as we have another special guest. It's Dr. Kim Skokan of Natural Medicine Palm Beach and of the Longevity Center. She is a core tenet to this practice. A lot of our patients see her. She is bioenergetic scanning. She is spiritual counseling. She's lifestyle adjustment. Dr. Kim, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Super excited to be here.
That's a pretty cool explanation and intro.
Yeah.
I would say she's just a wizard. I would just leave it at that. I feel like that's the simplest way to explain you.
I like a wizard. I'll
Just
take
a wizard.
Wizard works.
So let me lead with how I explain Dr. Kim to patients, and then I'm sure she'll correct that, but this is how I explain to patients why they should see her. So she has what's called a Quest device. A Quest device is a bioenergetic scanning device, which it measures frequency. And so you have to stretch your mind just a little bit to understand this machine. Everything has a frequency, right? It's a vibrational frequency. Magnesium has a frequency. Calcium has a frequency. Apples have a frequency. Your heart has a frequency. Sadness has a frequency. And so what this machine is, you hold these two poles and it runs through all these frequencies and it's measuring, are you high, low, or good at each one? But then what makes Dr. Kim special is she finds what's wrong. And then she doesn't just be like, here, go eat more apples. She says, what is the underlying issue that's causing this? Let's talk about it.
I love that. I love how nicely we put that. Yes, our bodies have energetic frequencies. And like you explained, every single thing has a frequency. And our bodies, our cells have frequencies. And when our body cells are imbalanced, the device picks up what the frequency is from that. And then I help rebalance that. So it's either like stressors, triggers, hormones, nutritional. So yeah, emotions.
Yeah.
For sure.
You touched on emotions, and that's the number one reason I send people to Dr. Kim, because they have an underlying emotional issue. And a big part of it is a lot of my patients, they've been sick for a long time, and being sick is almost becoming part of their identity. And so they need someone to work through that.
Sure.
That's really important too. I mean, like I've heard you say it probably a dozen times. If you don't think the stem cells are going to work, they're not going to work.
Right. Well, it's also too, you've seen and you've heard plenty of times people can have like stage 4 cancer and they just ran a marathon and won. And then they're diagnosed, they find out that they have it, and then a week later they're dead. It's like once you tell your body, oh, I'm shutting down. It's like you hear it, everything starts to happen. Our words are very strong and powerful. And what happens too is sometimes our illness becomes our existence. And that's how our family and our friends always refer to us. It's like, how are you feeling? Oh, I don't feel well. I feel like this. And then your body, you keep telling your body, I don't feel well. I'm not getting better. Now, I'm not saying there are times that people are in excruciating pain. They're very acute. You know, they're not going to pretend that they feel better. But when you're constantly waking up and everyone's in your environment and it's already programmed to your existence of that you're sick, they're constantly looking at you as the illness.
Yep.
And now that's become your identity. So it's not you fighting the illness, it's the illness fighting you.
Wow.
And you get beaten down.
Yeah.
And I do see a lot of people, sometimes I have a lot of victims from different types of abuse, and it's been suppressed. And when you suppress it, it can turn into disease.
Yeah, and you can see that very clearly in just how things are labeled. I am obese. I am anemic. I am X. I am Y. I am Z. All these things are identifying with the disease.
This touches back on what we talked about Dr. Rob Kelly. And his whole thing was those people in AA, they all start out and say, hi, my name is John and I'm an alcoholic, which reinforces that idea.
Absolutely.
So how do you approach it to break that connection?
So what I try to do is pinpoint what the unhealthy behavioral pattern is, which was learned from birth all the way through our existence. I'm going to give like a short description. I was at the beach with my husband, and it was in the morning, and there was a little girl with her mom, and there was a rose sitting in the sand, like someone stuck it there, left it for someone. And I'm explaining this because our words are so powerful. And the little girl went up to grab it. And the mom was like, no, that's not for you. That's for someone special. Mom had no idea. Mommy, whoever put that rose there, it was for someone else, clearly not intended for her.
Right.
She planted that seed in that little girl. You're not special. And as we go through things and we hear things, we constantly tell ourselves that. So what I do is I try to pinpoint what those seeds are, what those words are, and rebalance that with positive words. How can we break that behavioral pattern? How can we change those unhealthy thoughts and words that we've been using? Because it's also playing in the background. We can't sleep at night. Our mind's always going. These are the things that are always going. So I try to help clear that with positive things, like with affirmations. And the biggest affirmations there's 3 of them, and no one can do them. I will get people that will tell me, I'm telling you, 95% of my clients do not do their affirmations. They don't believe them. I love myself. I like myself. I forgive myself. And I'm worthy. I ask 2 minutes a day in the mirror, look at yourself and say those things. Nope. Can't do it. It took me years. I would brush my teeth and do it. I would look down. I didn't believe it. I hear, I was on YouTube. I watched this affirmation. I'm going to learn how to, manifest abundance. It's not what it's about. It's about believing yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, no one believes in you. And they're the hardest ones. No one will do them. And it's like, they're backing up oh, no. Well, Dr. Kim, I did this. No. Did you do the ones I gave you? I can't.
Yeah.
So we try to work on clearing that.
I mean, I have personal experience with that as well. I've done a lot of work with therapy, intensives. I did 40 years of Zen, kind of a neuro reset program. And I would say I'm much better, and I can do those first 2. I like myself, I love myself, but that I forgive myself and I'm worthy is still a struggle, even after all the work I've done. And it's like you said, it's a process.
It's a process. We're all in process. And that's the thing. Everyone thinks, I've mastered this, so now I'm done. You're not. We're always continuing to grow. We're always, I'll be 55 years old next month or in April. And I'm still going through things. I still have abandonment issues. I still have things. And every day you just have to recognize what those triggers are and how are you going to handle it.
Well, you bring up an interesting point. Recognize those triggers. So a lot of people that are seeing you are realizing they have a problem. Sometimes I'll send someone to you for a scan because in my mind, I know they need you, but they're not ready to hear that they need you. So I'll be like, hey, go get scanned for toxins or something.
Sure.
How do you approach the patient that doesn't know they need you or isn't ready for you yet?
Beautiful question. I actually have a client that I was seeing for digestive issues. She was and she'll laugh when she watches this because she knows exactly who I'm talking about. She came to see me for digestion issues only. A ton of emotional stuff was coming up on the comprehensive, which is the underlying root causing. And normally a lot of emotions don't show up there. They show up in other scans. And I helped her with the digestion, told her what I found, talked about all this other stuff. Nope, I'm not there. I don't want to talk to you about it. Okay. So she left. I explained everything I had. I basically let her know that it's in storage. Whenever she's ready to come, it's either going to be there for her or it's going to start to seep out into her body for something else. And she came back a month later. And she's like, I guess she thought about it, or I had planted a seed. And she was like, okay, let's talk about some stuff. So we just baby step it. It's just whatever they're ready for. And also understand, too, the stuff that shows up on the scans, most of the time is mind-blowing. And it doesn't just say, I've had people that have had infidelity issues. And it doesn't say that you're cheating, but there's other words there that talks about, or if you've been abused, and you don't want to talk about it, or you think that you've gone through counseling, these things shows up. And I'm able to ask you questions, and then you're just how did you know that? But now you trust me, and we're able to work through it. So I peel back the onion slowly as we go through the process, because there's hundreds of things that show up. You can't just work through all of those. So we work through a little bit at a time. So the people that don't know that they need me, once I plant the seed to the things that you don't have to, I scanned you. There's things that you knew. There's things that you're like, okay. You know, you either deal with it or you don't.
Yep.
But I'm not telling you things that you don't already know.
Yeah.
I help bring them to light because your body now wants to address it.
Yeah. And so here's my favorite example. So you can scan pets as well with this because why not, right?
Sure.
And you can do it through cheek swabs, through DNA, and you can do it through hair testing. So we like to have our dog Sadie scanned about once a month. So there's 3 distinct things I want to point out. The very first time we scanned Sadie, I think she was in heat. And so one of the emotional things that came up for her was worried about becoming a mother. Like, how would this know it unless it was true, right? And then the second time we scanned her, Sadie was in puppy class. She was in like group obedience school, and you know they get a lot of treats and it's a lot of fun and they're having a great time. It would come up, Sadie is enjoying school or whatever the exact verbiage was.
Disharmony with school.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, she enjoyed school.
Oh, okay.
The very first time we scanned her, she
right.
enjoyed school.
Right.
And then we got Sadie a personal trainer, and
Right,
he
that's
doesn't
right.
use treats. He uses verbal commands, and she's a much better dog for it. But it would come up, disharmony with school. Sadie no longer likes school because it wasn't fun.
Yeah.
How would this machine know what she's thinking? And we could see it. When we tell her Phil's coming, she gets upset. But how would that machine know it unless it was true?
And
Well, it wouldn't.
yeah, I've had personal experience with this technology, and I did not tell the person scanning me what health issues I was dealing with, and they read it out like a receipt. They were like, "Hey, you're dealing with this, this, and this," and I was like, "What? How'd you know that?" I'm like, "That's literally what I'm working on with my blood work right now."
Yeah.
Crazy stuff.
There is a lot of stuff, and I will tell you, there's stuff that is already pre-programmed, but then there's other things that show up, and I 100% respect it because there's just no way. I had lost my mother years ago, and it showed grief for loss of mother, not grief of loss of parent or grief, like specifically my mom, and it was like, how would you know that? And like you said, everything has an energetic, vibrational frequency, and it just emotions everything. And it's whether you want to admit it or not. You know, we're like, well, how is that possible? Well, how are MRIs possible? How are X-rays possible? It's like it takes a picture of that frequency at that moment.
So now there's these drops as well you make. Can you explain the drops?
So the drops there's 2 different things. Everyone thinks of drops like as homeopathic drops. Homeopathic is when you take the product and you dilute it like a million times. What this is the frequencies of the imbalances that you have. So let's say that you have a hormonal imbalance. The drops help rebalance you with the frequency that you're imbalanced, if that makes sense. So it's not necessarily homeopathic because I'm not taking a product. I'm taking the imbalanced emotion and rebalancing it with the correct frequency.
So it's basically bioenergetic stem cells, if you will,
Well,
because it's signaling molecules, right? It's just a frequency
Yes.
that is signaling to our body, hey, this is something that's off. Let's fix it. It's giving
It's giving the
right
correct.
inputs.
Yes, exactly. It's giving you the correct vibrational frequency to help rebalance that. Yes.
That's pretty cool.
So just like the negative has imbalance or frequencies, the positive does as well. And then it's like a puzzle piece, and then it goes together.
Yeah.
And I have personal experience with these drops. Have you used them?
I don't think you've ever made me any drops.
This man needs some drops. Well, one of the things that popped up was muscle on my leg. It's not functioning right. And so I did the drops, and I did 30 days of them, and I gained 10 pounds of muscle in 30 days without changing my workout regimen, without changing my food.
Yeah.
Just put on a bunch of muscle, and the only thing I changed was a frequency drop for muscle. Just mind blowing.
Yeah.
Was there any pain in the muscle?
Yeah, like aching and soreness.
Sometimes too, energy blockages are pain, and that's when you help relieve.
Yeah, let's touch on that. Energy blockage is a very almost woo-woo term, and so we want to expand on that a little bit.
Okay.
So an energy blockage, let's say you have an emotional trauma, right? And you apply that emotional trauma to your brain for whatever reason. We decide that emotional trauma of, for example, your dad yelled at you, applies to your thigh. For whatever reason, your brain decides to apply it to your thigh. That thigh now becomes a problem. It's going to physically hurt. So when we clear the energy blockage, there's a couple of different ways we could do it. Dr. Kim can do it through her words. She can do it through her drops. We can do it physically, which is what she referenced through neurotherapy. That's where we use that procaine that we talked about in the last episode to kind of reset it.
Mm-hmm. And the beautiful part is and I'm so happy and thankful to be here and to have been on our journeys have been put together, is how much more we can help people.
Yeah.
Because before I would be able to see all this stuff, scan everybody, and I can only take them so far. Like we have one client, or you have a patient, I have a client that we share. And when she first came to see me, she was, I would say in my opinion, almost on death's door. And I was like, listen, like you need to go see Dr. K because he can help you way faster and better than I can. And then she came to see you.
Yep.
So it's not like I can help. A lot of the things that we do are similar in the fact of the testing, but they're very different also. And I respect that. And you can take the person's healing and wellness to a higher level than I can on many aspects, except for the emotional, like when they need to have things done.
I wouldn't say higher level. It's different. Without the emotional regularity foundation that you give them, I could pump them full of stem cells and ozone, all that stuff as much as I want. If they're like Kyle touched on, if mentally they're like, this is never going to work, I'm going to be sick for forever.
Yeah.
And I can't do the therapy. They'll never get better. So that's where the combination really comes in.
Yeah, it's that chicken and the egg effect. You know, the physical problems in the body can cause mental problems, and mental problems and emotional problems can cause physical problems.
Sure.
It goes both ways. Working on it synergistically is the best approach.
I think for me, by saying higher, I just mean like I've seen how many people you've helped. So for me, it's just like beautiful and amazing because it's just great to be able to have, well, gosh, one day somebody came in to see us and I was like, this is on a different level for me. And then you guys were able to see the person and do some blood work and find out that there was possibly some heavy metal overloads in their body, which was great because Kyle and you and I saw the person at the same time.
Yeah.
Because I was like, hey, I think I need a little bit more assistance here, and it was something that we were able to do hand in hand, which is what I love because people normally come to see me when they have failed in all of the testing that they've done. Everything's come back negative.
Yeah.
And then they're like, okay, I don't know where else to turn. And I'm normally the one or they've already gotten a diagnosis and they're not happy with it.
Yeah.
And that right there, ladies and gentlemen, is a sign of an excellent practitioner. So someone who can say, this is what I can help you with, and this is what I cannot help you with, and has a network to refer to those people who can help you with those things you can't, is what makes an excellent practitioner. So, for example, there are things that Dr. K is like, I cannot help you with this. You need to go talk to Dr. Kim. Or I cannot help you with this. Go talk to this specialist or go talk to this person. Because if you go to a person and they say, I can help fix everything, that's not the right person.
No,
That
for sure.
is not the right person.
For sure.
Okay. Anything else you want to add?
No, I think it's like I said, I'm super excited and thankful to be here, and I'm thankful for all the people that we're helping.
Absolutely.
So
That's amazing. Well,
beautiful
ladies and
thing.
gentlemen, this is the Peak Performance Podcast. Today we talked about mental health, emotional health, bioenergetic scanning, and the wonderful work Dr. Kim is doing. Dr. K, you got anything else for us?
No, thank you everybody for joining us. Dr. Kim, thank you. She's Natural Medicine of Palm Beach, naturalmedicineofpalmbeach.com, or the Longevity Center. You can reach her through us as well.
Thanks for joining.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Peak Performance Podcast, your #1 resource for today's top health hacks and facts. You can follow us on Instagram at the Peak Performance Pod or on X at Perform Pod. You can also check out our website and weekly blogs at peakperformancepodcast.online. Again, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. We put out a new podcast every Thursday. The content of this podcast is provided for informational purposes only and is not intended for the purposes of diagnosing, treating, curing, or preventing any disease. Before using any products referenced on the podcast, consult with your healthcare provider. Carefully read all labels and heed all directions and cautions that accompany the product. Information found or received through the podcast should not be used in place of a consultation or advice from a healthcare provider. If you suspect you have a medical problem or should you have any healthcare questions, please promptly call or see your healthcare provider. This podcast, including Coach Kyle, Dr. K, and producers, disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse effects from the use of the information contained herein. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements made by guests. This podcast does not make any representations or warranties about guest qualifications or credibility. This podcast may contain endorsements and advertisements for products or services. Individuals on this podcast may have a direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to herein.